Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is your host, John Hornbeck with the Belgian Waffle Show, and we have another episode for you today, and it's a good one. We got Ian Boswell on the show, former World Tour pro rider who spent some time with Sky, then did a season with Katusha, before ultimately calling it a career and moving forward. And to my surprise, I thought from outside looking in, Ian was doing similar programs compared to Ted King, TJ Eisenhart, Pete Stetina, as far as just making a new path within cycling with his own partners. But come to find out, he actually is a full-time employee with Wahoo now, and has a really cool gig over there, which still allows him to be out on his bike quite a bit, work with pro athletes in various industries, from cycling to triathlon. But he's still going to be doing a lot of these events, like the Belgian Waffle ride, for example. So we really talk about how he's adjusting to this new life, how he's still training a bit, but, he's not looking at going to just win and crush all these events, because he has a full-time job now, and that's kind of his priority, and the riding is, coming secondary. But it's a really interesting chat, because I didn't really think it was going to go this way. I thought it was going to be kind of a similar of like, hey, you're done racing on the road, now you're going to do this stuff. And he's got a whole different thing lined up. So it was really cool. Really fun chatting with him. Ian's a super cool guy. And let's just get right into it and, listen for yourselves. All right. Thanks, guys.
Hey, John, how are you?
Good. How you doing today, man?
Yeah, doing all right. It's you out in San Diego?
Yeah, I'm down in San Diego right now.
Nice. Well, it's snowing up here in Vermont, so imagine the weather's a bit better out there.
I was actually going to ask you how the weather was, because we finally got a good. It's pretty warm week. It's about 78 right now. Blue skies.
Lucky
Lucky
man.
Yeah, dude. Come on. You spend enough time in Europe. You're supposed to come back and have the nice part of the weather, not go straight to the East Coast and deal with it.
I enjoy it though. I enjoyed it. Adds hair to my beard.
No, I bet. How it's snowing out there right now. Like, what are you doing training wise? Do you do indoor trainer stuff, or I think I saw some stuff where you kind of had a snow bike set up with some big gloves and everything. How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, ironically, it's actually better to ride in winter than it is now. Well, maybe not now in general, but today, because, when you're on the fat bike, you're going so slow. I did some rides when it was, 10 degrees outside, and you stay pretty warm because you kit up and the roads are frozen, so you stay dry. It's more like the shoulder seasons that are difficult when it's cold and wet. And then you're also maybe on your gravel bike or road bike, and then your speed's higher, so you just get a lot colder.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I've yet to done the fat bike cold. I did some racing in the snow a few times, but I've never actually had to do the actual snow training stuff.
It's not the worst. I mean, it's a hell of a workout. Those bikes are, they're light, but there's so much rolling resistance that you don't go too far. So you get a lot of force work.
Were you would you do set intervals on that kind of stuff, or would you just kind of go ride it, or I guess could you get a high enough cadence for how slow you're going on those bigger bikes to put in some real efforts?
No, I pretty much just rode.
Yeah.
I would once in a while jump in. Obviously I'm working with Wahoo, so I have a kicker bike set up at home. So if I was doing any sort of, I don't have a coach or I don't have a specific training plan, but I would do some more kind of focused work indoors because it helps to pass the time. And then when I'm outside, pretty much just riding. It's surprisingly, you can get a good workout on the fat bike, but you can't really. It sounds strange, but you can't really do an interval because it's just too much resistance. I don't know what it is about it. You start to go hard, and after 2 minutes, you just feel cooked. It's great for endurance, though, but not great for intervals.
Yeah, that's kind of how I figured it would be. Yeah, that makes sense. How is that Wahoo set up? Obviously I've seen it. Everyone's seen it. You can go up and down on it. Does it actually feel like you're going up a climb and stuff, or does it feel pretty stationary still, or how's that new concept?
It's awesome. I grew up kind of in the early days of somewhat, I guess, more functional trainers, but still not smart trainers. And, I have always, or used to really dread indoor training just because you couldn't really get a good workout. And your tire would be spinning on the old trainers. And, now with these smart trainers, they're so accurate based off of, just the effort you can do with all the little virtual riding apps, with Sufferfest and Zwift. Like, you can actually jump on and get an amazing workout, and it's incredibly efficient. You're not coasting. I often find that, 60 to 90 minutes is plenty.
Yeah, I was curious. I was wondering how much time you actually put on that. Do you typically do it will you hit like a Zwift workout, or like the virtual thing, or do you kind of just do your own thing sometimes, or put a movie on some Netflix? Like, how do you kind of normally structure it?
Yeah, well, I've been doing, Pete Stetton is doing a couple of the Zwift rides. So I've jumped in and joined him a couple times. But the majority of the time when I'm riding indoors, I actually am riding like the Sufferfest app. So it's like just specific to, I can like take a workout. So I'll do that workout and then I'll watch something in the background. So it's like you can minimize the workout screen and then I'll watch something on Netflix or YouTube. Just because, I don't know, helps me kind of keep up to date with the world if I'm actually somewhat connected to pop culture and what's happening.
Yeah, no, it's a good way to do it. Good way to pass the time. So how, you're in Vermont, we're in Southern California. How is everything going over there right now? With everything going on outside of this, COVID-19 thing?
Yeah, to be honest, I've actually I don't want to say enjoyed it, but my wife and I have been doing fine up here. We thankfully live in a community in a rural setting, so our lives haven't changed all that much. We've obviously, my schedule has changed. I would have been out in California right now getting ready for, Belgian Waffle next week. I was going to plan on staying in California between Sea Otter and BWR. So I'm, definitely missing the travel, but I'm also really enjoying the time at home and been getting involved in all sorts of little projects that, things I always want to do, but I haven't been able to do because, for the last few years I've been overseas racing. So it's nice to actually be home for a spring and kind of be part of the process of getting our yard and garden ready for summertime.
No, there's definitely so many positives you can take out of this. And it's funny. I've also, I'm doing a lot at home. Obviously we're all at home, but I feel like a lot of cycling, cyclists or enthusiasts are kind of low key, a lot of maybe introvert style where it's fine to do their own thing for a bit. And, you can go ride 5-6 hours by yourself. I think staying at home is not that big of a deal. And there's so many little things you can make the most of and get a jump start on that you haven't done in the past. So it's kind of the general sense I've been hearing from other people. Yeah,
definitely. It's been, obviously I missed this was my first year kind of jumping into gravel racing. So I was pretty eager to kind of get the ball rolling, see what it was all about, kind of see where I was at, kind of just get a feel for all these events that I've heard so much about. So a little bit, kind of missing the fact that I'm not going to be taking part in those, at least this, early spring and early summer. But, if anything, it is a benefit for us New Englanders to have a little bit more time to prepare when the weather warms up for races later in the year.
Yeah, I feel like if everything goes to plan as far as what everyone's kind of thinking when stuff will back up, and you guys are gonna have a heavy fall.
Yeah,
you're gonna have a heavy fall of events to hit.
Yeah, it is, and my wife and I organize an event here in Vermont in late September. So far, no events that I had scheduled to do are overlapping, but I am just waiting for things to change and realize that I have to make a choice. Am I going to be at my event or am I going to be at some other event? But I think the answer to that will be pretty clear.
Yeah. So, obviously, not the most ideal timing for you to kind of start this new part of your career, but how did, I was personally a little surprised when I kind of saw you going down this path, doing pretty well on the world tour and stuff. What, where did all this kind of start coming from as far as you wanted to make a little change of direction within your cycling?
Well, so it's all stemmed from a crash that I had last year in Tirreno Adriatico, and just the time away from racing and kind of the medical complications, I'll say, allowed me time to kind of evaluate where I was at in my career and kind of the health of my body and my mind. And so I, kind of had to make a choice. Did I want to go back to world tour racing, or did I want to, kind of walk away from cycling altogether and, maybe go back to college and get a degree in something? But I quickly realized that I love riding my bike and that I wanted to continue riding my bike at a competitive level. And I think gravel riding and racing in a lot of ways kind of is the perfect balance for kind of where I'm at in my life. It's as competitive as you want it to be, but it's also inclusive if you're not someone who's wanting to race, and there's not the same pressures on myself to win and to perform. I'm doing it, and I'll of course love to do well. I'd love to come out to BWR and be at peak fitness, and give Pete and the other guys, Colin Strickland, a run for their money. But at the same time, there's so much more to it than just those results at the finish line. And obviously, I'm working now with Wahoo, so my job is not completely as a professional athlete anymore, which is something completely new to me. And the last couple of weeks, my butt's been sore from sitting on my couch, working on my computer, not from sitting on my bike.
Yeah, I was curious about that because I see like the stuff you're doing with Wahoo. Obviously, they're a big partner with your program you put together, but also I see like your podcast doing with them. So like, you are kind of, it's a job, like you are working for them or with them. They're not just per se like a sponsor on your new program. I mean, obviously it's kind of a little bit of both, it sounds like.
No, it was, yes. I'm a full-time employee at Wahoo.
Okay.
Yes, I have a full-time job, so I'm working as kind of within the marketing department as a brand liaison to a lot of the athletes and teams, and also doing the podcast. And, I would have been I will still be at all the events that they support, especially on the gravel front, and even potentially some cycling events and triathlons. So I've had a long-term relationship with Wahoo since 2013. I've been, pretty closely connected with the brand. So they were kind of looking to expand their kind of resources as far as connection with their pro athletes. And I kind of fit the bill, and just having a bit, obviously prior experiences being a pro athlete. So just, gradually and kind of consistently taking on more responsibilities as an employee, but, still being able and having the freedom to race and ride a bike, which is kind of the best of both worlds. Cause it's not like I've just gone straight into a job where I'm, on my computer all the time. There's still, flexible hours to be able to get out and ride when I can make it work.
Yeah, that's very cool. I didn't actually know that was like the whole program, because, it seems like most people when they're done cycling, whether they choose to leave on their own terms or maybe they don't have that contract, it's like they either have like absolutely nothing going on, or maybe they go straight, into school, or they just do a different job and they don't ride their bike or anything. But like, yeah, to come out, out of, you're still fairly young for sure, and like have a cool job you go into and be able to build this program. That's awesome. That's great that
yeah,
doing that with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. Just through the podcast and through, Wahoo's connections with, with the world tour teams in particular, but also, pro triathletes, like I still feel like I'm very much a part of the sport, which is great, and I'm also learning a lot about just different aspects of riding the bike, and, triathlon and like endurance racing and mountain biking and, gravel riding, which is all stuff that, there's a lot of these athletes that I'm now kind of looking after, that I, to be honest, in some cases I've been completely unaware of who they are, but in their space of endurance sports, they're stars.
Yeah, totally. So that kind of answers my question, but one thing I did want to ask, and there's like, this is the great thing about this whole like, gravel adventure style movement, is there's like no right or wrong answer to this. But like, so you getting in and, let's just like not even talk like it's a normal calendar year, you're going to do all your events that you signed up for. So are you going into like I want to try to win and, battle Pete's? Obviously Pete's like full on, like I'm racing everything. But then there's guys like, TJ Eisenhower, who's like, hey, like he's just doing all this, for fun and connecting with people, and he's not so worried about results. And then there's, guys like, Ted King, who came into it after he kind of retired, and, he's still obviously very competitive and winning stuff, but like he's, doing his own thing as well. Like, where would you say you kind of place yourself in like, your post, road racing career? Obviously now I work for Wahoo, but like when you go to the events, like what are you kind of expecting?
I would say I'm kind of a middleman, I guess I would say. Because I haven't participated in these events, I really don't know what they're like. And to be kind of transparent, I've still like kind of mentally gone between this, pendulum of like, oh, I'm still a racer, in times when like I'm an employee now. Like I have a full-time job. Like I don't need to be training 25 hours a week. But, I think just carrying some fitness over from, my past as a road rider, and just knowing that I'm competitive, I'd love to be, I'm always going to ride hard. But, I just don't know I really, like I said, it's hard for me to judge where I'll be, because I just don't know what the level's like. And obviously I know Pete's been training the ton. I know Colin Strickland and Payson, and, I ride with Ted, once in a while. So I'd hope to be competitive, but again, it's not the end all be all of my kind of transition to gravel if I'm winning or not. But that said, I still have a competitive side within me and still like to, more so than riding to win, I just like to ride hard.
So, and this is one thing, like personally, I kind of battled for a little bit. So like when I was done racing, I went and worked for the magazine, and, I was still doing all these events, 2-3 years ago, kind of with the magazine, which was cool. But like, I kind of had a tough time, like just training still, like when you're not kind of getting paid to train, like when you're racing, it's obviously like, that's all you have to do. Right. And firsthand how like tired you are and exhausted you are from like a full set day or week of training. But then also like now it's like, you have to work. And like you said, you have to sit on your couch and put the laptop up. And, for me, like it was tough for me to be like super exhausted and then still work. So like, that's why I wasn't really too motivated to like keep training hard and just more so just riding for fun and, hitting some hard rides here and there. But like, have you backed down your training quite a bit knowing that like, hey, like I have all these other things going on? Or like, was that kind of a challenge for you at all to like kind of like switch your focus on like how you, go out on the bike and how much time you put on the bike? Because you have all this other stuff going on.
Yeah, I definitely don't have the amount of free time that I've had, for the last, 10 or 15 years of my life to just go out and ride kind of when I want and, wait for the sun to come out until you leave, get kitted up and leave. But I don't know. I still love riding my bike. Like I said, I don't have a coach. I don't have a training plan. I'm not doing any specific intervals, kind of just know that, as the events get closer, I'll start riding harder. I definitely miss that pro lifestyle. I was over in Nice, France at the end of February for like 2 weeks training with all my former, world tour friends. And, for like those 2 weeks, I was like, sweet, I feel like a pro athlete again. I think I did like 30 hours on the bike. I was like, this is awesome. And then I came back to Vermont and Mid-South I decided to not go to Mid-South just because the current climate. And since then, I've definitely toned back my riding. Because it's not my full-time job anymore. I still love riding my bike, but I guess I see it now more as a privilege when I get to go for a ride midweek. If I've finished work and it's still sunny out and I can go jump on my bike for a couple hours, I feel incredibly fortunate that I have the opportunity to still ride my bike. But it's not, there's definitely times like this morning I jumped on my Wahoo kicker and was just like, after 30 minutes, I was like, yeah, that was enough for today. I'm going to go upstairs and make a cup of coffee. But that doesn't necessarily mean, also the races that I'm doing are very different than the races I was doing before. I'm not training for a grand tour. I don't need to be doing, 4 consecutive days of 5 or 6 hours. So kind of the metrics as far as what's needed change, and I'll kind of figure that out as the year goes on and as I participate in more of these events.
So what does, like, ideally, like what would your ideal week look like? Whether weather's okay, you don't have to worry about snow or rain. As far as like training and how much you're actually riding now, like is it every day you're still getting out, or is it every 2 or 3 days you're getting out? Or what are you kind of like shooting for now?
I would still say I probably ride my bike like 5 or 6 days a week. What's changed is probably the hours. Like this morning I jumped on for 30 minutes and that might be the only ride I do today. I still try to get out on the weekends for longer rides. I would still say I try to get in, 15 hours. Maybe if it's a good week, I'll get in 20 hours if I can get one midweek ride that's a bit longer.
Yeah.
One of the beauties of the modern workplace is that hours are somewhat flexible, so I can, and I'm an early morning person anyway, so I can wake up and ride at 7 a.m, do an hour and a half, and then maybe after work in the afternoon, jump out for another, hour and a half on my bike. And then you got, 2.5, 3 hours in without really missing any work and, still having plenty of free time for kind of home life as well. So yeah, I'd say that like, if I can ride, around 15 hours a week, then I feel like that's still plenty for me. And I think just for me, still kind of going through that transition from being an athlete to a worker or kind of someone in the workforce, I would say that, it's still really important for me to get out and ride just for my mental health as well.
Yeah, completely. Definitely can't just shut that off. It's take a burden on you for sure. So looking back, how, what does your program look like right now? Like who you kind of partnered with and like what events, let's just kind of throw this whole Corona thing out the window and like just think it's a normal year. Like what were you planning on hitting and doing, and and who you're partnered with now?
Yeah, so obviously I'm working for Wahoo, so they're I'm traveling to all these races with Wahoo as an employee. I'll be at Belgian Waffle Ride, setting up tents and they're doing my job. I've also just through Wahoo and through different connections I've had over the course of my career, I've been able to partner with some other awesome brands. So I'm with Specialized for bikes. I have Science and Sport for nutrition products because I've been with them for a long time and just really love the stuff they're producing. Ridge Supply for socks. I'm good friends with Matt Hawkins, and he does some socks for Arfondo. We have a good relationship, both my wife and I, with him. So he's providing me some socks. Jolbo Glasses. They're actually the North American headquarters is here in Vermont. So using their eyewear. And using iCore for a CBD product. I got connected with John Robichar over there, and actually prior to even starting gravel racing, just to kind of help me relieve some of my symptoms from my crash and concussion, I just found that the CBD products were really beneficial. So, I think that's it. And yeah, it's cool to for the first time in my career, actually work with brands and partners that I really want to work with. And in many ways, I feel like more of a professional athlete than ever because I'm, actually part of these brands. I'm not just, there's no middleman as far as a team coach or, management dealing with, sponsors and kind of left on the outside, not really know what's happening. So I can actually work with these partners, firsthand to, whether it's developing a product or, asking questions, which is really, something I've really enjoyed.
Yeah, that's kind of the general theme I've kind of heard back from, the riders that are kind of going from the team pro racing dynamic to the individuals. Like they're excited that they can kind of go, I don't want to say pick and choose, but almost pick and choose like who they actually want to work with and be with and surround themselves with from a sponsor standpoint. And it's like kind of like finally, I don't have just my director telling me, hey, this we got to wear, here you go. You don't like how it feels, tough luck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's cool that you get a, really, build long-term relationships with these brands. And, I would hope that with the brands I'm working with now, I'm still, using their products and supporting them for, the remainder of my lifetime on a bike.
So what was your calendar shaping up to look like?
Yeah, so I was going to start my year at Mid-South. And then I was going to be heading, there's actually a small event here in Vermont called the Vermont Overland Maple Adventure Ride. VOMAR is what it's known as. And followed by Sea Otter. And I was going to spend some time in California between Sea Otter, BWR, and then Dirty Kanza, Oregon Trail Gravel Grinder. I'm trying to think what else is after that. Then I was going to head over to the Tour de France I was going to guide a tour over there for Velo Guide, do some work for Wahoo at the tour. Then I would have been back in Vermont for the Ted King's ride, the Rooted. Then I was going to go out to SBT, and then I guess Belgian Waffle Ride Asheville, and kind of ending the season up here in Vermont with the Peach and Fall Fondo, which is the event that my wife and I put on September 26th.
Nice. Yeah, that's a pretty solid calendar right there.
Yeah, it was. I was looking forward to it.
So speaking of Belgian Waffle Ride, obviously you haven't done it. What have you heard about the event, or what have you seen? Have you talked to people about it, or kind of like what's kind of the vibe you've gotten off BWR?
I've heard a lot of different things about BWR. I've heard that it's a faster course than maybe something like DK. There's more paved sections, which actually for me is something that I am looking forward to. Just coming from a road background, I probably similar to Pete, probably not the most technically savvy rider. But it's funny, I actually just did a podcast with Cam Worf, who won the race in 2015. And he had mentioned that in 2015, just how much gravel riding has changed, how he came across the finish line in first and everyone's like, oh, you won. And he's like, I didn't win. This is a ride. But obviously now, these things are races, but even you look, 5 years ago, for many people, they were just seen as rides. It was like a group ride. And like, oh, cool. Yeah. Like you were the strongest person. Like, congratulations. But now it's like, there's a competitive side. Like, hey, you won, or you finished second or third or 10th. Whereas, just a few years ago, it was, cool. Like, you're the strongest guy today. Like, we're all going to hang out and have a beer together. I've heard great things about the event, and I've heard it's obviously an extremely challenging course as well. And it's, become quickly one of the premier cycling events in the US, whether that be road, gravel, mountain bikes, it's one of the biggest marquee events in the US now.
Yeah, it's definitely, I actually did a podcast with Neil Shirley recently. We talked about it because he's been at pretty much all of them. And, it went from like a friend thing, he was working at the magazine, they did a test bike, and it was kind of cool and fun. So now it's like, yeah, people are getting paid contracts to show up at this event. And yes, it's not an event per se anymore. It's a race, which is, it's crazy how, I don't want to say quickly, but kind of quickly it's changed. It's from, I guess, in a 10-year span to where it's like the new thing for the US now.
Yeah.
But,
but
it's pretty wild.
Yeah, but in many ways, it's cool to see that, for a long time, the U.S. has tried to kind of model after Europeans, market of cycling. But the reality is, we ride bikes in a different way over here, and we have different roads and different surfaces, and we might as well, explore those and see what they can offer for not just the people racing, but the people participating as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've always, thought, when I started racing or going down that path, like, it's obviously never going to be European culture and racing over here. And, I always believe that like the marathon style would be like the key to success over here for any type of bike racing. You have that one course, everyone out there, the top guys in the front, and then your weekend warriors in the middle to the back, and everyone just does the same day, same event. And, that's kind of how it goes. And it definitely seems like it's going that way now. So it's awesome for kind of US to get back on the map of, bike culture.
Yeah. Well, it's, becoming more popular. You see how now even like in ways US, the American kind of way of gravel is like starting to influence a lot of races in Europe as well, which is a big change of things in the past.
Right. Speaking of that, did you have any like European events on your calendar, or were you looking to go over there for anything as far as like in the gravel adventures space?
I had contemplated going to the Rift and, maybe a couple events in the UK. I'd actually, one of the events I was highly considering was actually the Grinduro Japan. There's a couple, I think it was the week before Dirty Kansas. So it would have been a lot of travel to go over there and do that. But I've raced in Japan a handful of times over the course of my life, and I really love Japanese culture and the people and the terrain there. So maybe 2021, I'll try to head back to Japan for Grinduro.
Nice. Well, hey man, before we wrap this up, like, I appreciate you taking the time to chat. Where's the best, you got a lot of things going on now, the podcast, obviously your events, like where can everyone kind of follow along or, see what you're doing nowadays? I
would say I'm most active just on Instagram. I think my handle is just at Ian Boswell. Maybe it's Ian_Boswell. I'm not exactly sure. I guess probably you could see it easier than I can.
Yeah,
just
you're verified, they'll find it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's probably where I'm most active, more so than Facebook or YouTube or anything. But yeah, I would say I post all the podcasts on there and share stuff about events I'm going to and the ride my wife and I host here in Vermont. And yeah, hopefully we'll all be able to partake in the Triple Crown come this autumn.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure we'll see you out there, and you'll be at the front like always. So yeah, dude, once again, much appreciated for the chat. Hopefully everything's going well on your end, and we get through all this in a timely manner, and we can all be back out at the races and having fun.
Sweet, cool.
Having a beer.
Yeah, I'll save one for me.
Will do. All right, man.
Cool.
Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, John. Later, man.